How's it going, everybody? It's JT coming at you with another episode of the Vipercast, your podcast for everything Las Vegas Vipers. Now, yesterday, there was some pretty interesting news surrounding the Vipers. As you know, if you watched my video or if you're following the Vipers, you saw that in the draft, there was two QBs drafted by the Vipers, Luis Perez and Jalen McClendon. Now, there's a third QB in the mix, and one that I was hoping the Vegas Vipers would get, and they got him. Someone that I followed in the USFL, QB, the initial QB of my favorite team, the Philadelphia Stars, and that is Brian Scott, is rumored to be going to the Vegas Vipers once his contract expires in the coming year. So on January 1st or December 31st, whichever date, that's when his USFL contract expires, and that's when he's going to make the jump to the XFL. Recently on his Instagram, he posted, "Are you ready?" with him training or whatever, and the caption, the location was Sin City. Now, coming from a very reliable source that I will not name, but very, very close to Brian Scott, said, I asked, "Is Brian Scott going to Vegas?" And they replied with eyeball emojis. So, in my opinion, that just pretty much confirms. There's been a lot of reports just surrounding that, and it's pretty obvious. But him going to the Vegas Vipers is massive. That's a huge QB battle between two former really good USFL QBs. Now, between Luis Perez and Brian Scott. The story behind Brian Scott is that he actually got injured in the third game of the season. He had a severe knee injury, which took him out for the whole season. So he's been rehabbing since, April. He's been rehabbing that knee injury and is looking to make a comeback in the XFL. As you may guess, if you follow my channel, I'm a huge fan of Case Cookus. He was the backup and took over for the Stars and led them to the championship game, and they both played really good football. Brian Scott, despite playing 3 games, had the most passing yards a game. Still, after everyone played all their games, he had 186 passing yards a game, which is really impressive. One of the highest passing averages was 6.6 yards a pass. He had 28 attempts for every game for a 70% completion percentage, which is insanely high. He had 5 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He was a big reason why the Stars won some of their initial games. He was a really good QB before he went down, and obviously, the Stars fans were worried about how, Case Cookus would do, and we were, proving that Case Cookus is a really good QB, which is why he's found himself on the Rams, which, I hope they play Case Cookus because he deserves it. But enough about Case Cookus. We're talking about Brian Scott. I think this addition makes a very, very interesting QB battle for the Vegas Vipers between Luis Perez and Brian Scott. At this point, Jalen McClendon doesn't really have a shot unless he just goes absolutely bananas, because I think both Luis Perez and Brian Scott have proved themselves at the USFL level to the point where they should be fighting for the starting spot. And honestly, I give the edge to Brian Scott. Overall, he was a more impressive QB to me. He was the more stereotypical pocket passer. He would do very well with, I think, what they're going to establish as a pretty solid run game. They had some really good wide receivers. Luis Perez didn't have a lot of snaps. I mean, he started 6 games, but he split time with the other QB, DeAndre something, but who is also a solid QB. So it's just like, does Luis Perez have what it takes to actually win the starting spot? Who knows? He did have a starting spot in the XFL 2.0, which is, I think, a big reason why he's actually here. DeAndre Johnson, that's who it was. But yeah, I think Brian Scott has a chance. I mean, he had 558 passing yards in just 3 games. So, again, that's a lot of passing yards in just 3 games, especially for a spring football league. So I'm really excited. You guys should be really excited. So let me know down in the comments how you guys are feeling about Brian Scott coming to the Vegas Vipers. I think it's a great signing when it happens, once his contract with the USFL expires. I'm really excited to see this QB battle. going into the new year. As you know, the season starts on February 18th, so he's only going to have like a month and a half to prepare and win the starting spot. Luis Perez will actually be there for the whole time, for whenever they start practices until the start of the season, so he'll have the edge there. But I got to give the edge to Brian Scott. I think he'll win the starting job. I'm also very partial to him because I watched him on the Stars, but I think he's the better overall QB. But I think Luis Perez also is a really solid QB, so whichever one we go with, we probably have the best QB room in the league at this point, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I hope you guys had an absolutely wonderful day, and peace out, Vegas Vipers Nation. I don't know what to call us yet.